Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Mrs. Shazia Malik, Assistant Professor of English Department, Government Girls Degree College, Quarry Road, Quetta. Dear students, today I'm here to give my lecture to the students of third semester. The subject is Introduction to English Literature and the topic is a sonnet on his blindness written by John Milton. Okay, students, before starting the lecture, let us know about the definition of the sonnet. Now, what is a sonnet? The sonnet, it is a lyric. It is carefully ordered and is bounded by some definite, rigid rules. It is a short lyric of 14 lines, and moreover, these 14 lines are divided into two parts, octave and sestet. The octave is of 8 lines and the sestet is of 6 lines. Okay, now students, something about the poet of this poem, that is about John Milton. John Milton became blind at the age of 44. He faced a lot of difficulties in reading and writing. According to him, his talent was lost and it pained him a lot. But still he was hopeful and considered it as the will of God. And he did a very, very wonderful poetry and the people praised him a lot. Okay, students, now in front of you, the first stanza is over there on his blindness. When I consider how my light is spent, ere half my days in this dark world and wide, and that one talent which is dead to hide, lodged with me useless, through my soul more bent, to serve therewith my Maker and present my true account, lest the returning child doth God exact day, labour light denied. I fondly ask, but patience do prevent. Okay, girls. Now, before explaining any kind of stanza, any kind of lines of the poem, first of all, you have to explain it with reference to context. Now, what is a reference? Reference means, okay, that you have to mention the name of the poem plus the name of the poet also over there. So the reference of this poem is that you have to write these lines have been taken from the sonnet on his blindness written by John Milton. Now the next thing is context. Now girls, all of you know what is the context. Like the lines that are given to you, you have to describe it in a brief manner, the meaning of those lines. Just you can say 2 to 3 sentences. Okay, now as I've read the 8 lines over there, so now I'm going to do the explanation. Listen to it carefully and pay attention. The poet John Milton expresses his grief on being blind. He thinks that his life is useless and he has become blind. As you all know that he was having a great attachment with poetry. So when he became blind, so he just was very, very disappointed over there. As you know that he just became blind at the age of 44. So according to him, his half life was spent in writing poetry, but now he was unable to write something over there as now he was a blind person. His world is now dark without any light. So he expresses that only one thing is with him, and that is the one talent of writing beautiful poetry. Now he was hopeful by this that although he was a great writer, he had written such a wonderful poetry and he was praised by his people, and now he has become blind and this was the will of God. But he says that still he is having one talent and that talent is of writing poetry. Now, as usually a person becomes disheartened due to something, so the same case was with John Milton also. He's saying or talking about his talent, that is writing poetry, that it has become useless for him. Now he says that it was the will of God that he should be blind. Although he is blind, but he wishes to use his talent in the service of God. He wants to put forward his record of his activities in this world. So it means that he was a very religious person. So, moreover, he is not afraid to face God on the day of judgment. And this shows what? The sincerity and purity of his soul. He believes that God is omnipotent and will not scold him more for all his demands, nor will demand any kind of labor for him, as he is a blind person, and this was the will of God that he should spend the rest of his life by being blind. Now God will forgive him as he is a blind person. So now this poet John Milton, he is having this belief that God Almighty will forgive him for all his bad deeds, although he has not done any kind of it, but still he is very hopeful. Then he asks God why he is blind, but suddenly his inner self stops him and his patience prevents him from being upset or disheartened. Okay, students, the second stanza. That murmur soon replies, God doth not need either man's work or his own gifts. Who best mere his mild yoke, they serve him best. His state is kingly, thousand at his bidding speed, and post toward land and ocean without rest. They also serve who only stand and wait. So, as I told you before, that before doing the explanation of lines or of a stanza, again you have to write the reference plus the context. You have to explain the lines with reference to the context. So, again in the reference, I'm going to repeat it again that you have to write the name of the poem plus the name of the poet also over there. So now, as it is a sonnet on his blindness, so you have to write the name of the sonnet plus you have to write the name of the poet also, that is John Milton. Now, coming towards the context of these lines, the poet addresses himself that God is great. God does not need anything, only he needs the sincerity and honesty of the human beings. Okay, girls, now coming towards the explanation. Now, in this second stanza, John Milton explains his religious views. As I told before, that he was a very religious person. He says that all of us should follow the rules of our religion. The worldly things have no importance. Like it means over here that John Milton, he was not having any kind of attachment with the worldly things. Moreover, he says, God only needs the sincerity and hard work of a person. And this is the total thing and more important thing for a human being. As God is great and does not need the gifts nor the work of a person. So now the only thing that a person should be having is his good deeds plus his sincerity and moreover his struggle and good deeds. Now God only likes sincere and honest people who are obedient. Such kind of people share the burden of one another. It means that they are very helping and they just care for one another. The religious and kind people are always at the service of God. Now, the state of God is great and wonderful, as it is very much clear to all of us. There are a number of people who are obeying God. These people are at the service of God no matter where they are, as they are having their own sincerity and again their own religious affairs. So it doesn't matter where these people are, where they are living over there, but they are always present in the service of God. These are those people who are always alert and active and always accepts every order of God wholeheartedly. Now, all of us, according to John Milton, have to submit the records of our deeds. So, John Milton, in the end of this sonnet, is thankful to God and he realizes that everything in this world is temporary and a final day is going to come, and that final day will be for what? For the submission of our deeds. Although John Milton is blind, but he says that he will always remain at the service of God, even of his being blind. So, this is a very beautiful poem, dear students. And over here, all of us should be having a lesson and we should learn something from John Milton. That although he was a blind person, although he has been a very good poet, a very wonderful poet, but the thing was this, that when he became blind, still he was not disheartened. He was happy, okay, with his talent, and he said that Allah Almighty has not taken that talent from him. But still, he was very, very thankful to God Almighty over there, and he is saying that he will always remain at the service of God. I hope, students, you might have understood all these lines carefully. Now, the thing is this, that if you are having any kind of question, you can ask it in the group also. Okay, thank you. Allah Hafiz.